Are you ever staring at overflowing closets and wondering what's the right amount to keep? After years of helping countless families figure this out and learning from my own struggles, I found a surprising sweet spot for just how much we really need. So in this video, I'm gonna show you how much we keep in 6 everyday categories and easy ways to decide what to keep so your space finally feels manageable. A quick caveat before we dive in. This is not me telling you how much you should own. This is me sharing what our family has found to work for our lifestyle and our priorities, and some tips for anyone who's maybe looking to own a little bit less but not sure how much to keep. In 2022, the Canadian government banned certain single-use plastics, including grocery bags. One of the side effects is an absolute overload of reusable bags in households all across the country. If you are bombarded with reusable shopping bags, you are not alone. But if you are getting groceries here in Canada or anywhere else where there's no more plastic bags, you probably need at least some of these in your life. In our house, we have 2 collections. One are our fancy bags that we use, say if we're going to a friend's house and we want to toss an extra sweater in there and maybe a bottle of wine or a dessert that we're taking. Our fancy bags are ones that at least look sort of cute, and we own 5 of them. Second are our actual grocery bags that we use to get groceries, and we have 9 of them. This category is a great example of owning what you actually use. When I get a full grocery shop, I should use almost all of my bags. It's nice to have an extra 1 or 2 for, that day where all of a sudden one of them completely breaks. But if I start to notice that I've bagged all of my groceries and I still have 10 extra bags, that means I can probably let 8 of them go. Exact same strategy for my fancy bags. If I'm going to grab one and I notice that there's a whole bunch at the bottom that I just haven't used in months, it means that I just don't need them. It means I probably have ones I like better and I have too many. So the key lesson here is just to keep what you actually use. Grocery bags are 100% just for function. So if you don't use them, there is no point in keeping them. If you end up with a surplus of bags, these are perfect for carrying donations and loading them up. If I have extra ones, I always just put them in our donation station. And then when I'm ready to take all my donations to the thrift shop, I just pack them in these bags and toss them in my trunk. Next category is another item that I use to carry stuff, and one that I have drastically downsized over the years. I worked office jobs for nearly 20 years, which meant wearing office wear and, in my mind, accessorizing as well. In my 20s, I remembered changing my purse every single morning before work. I had an entire wall of hooks in my bedroom that I used to hang my bags as like a statement wall, and I thought it was so cool. Category number 2 is purses, and I now own 3 of them. One is my everyday purse, which I obviously use every day. And I bought this one secondhand on Facebook Marketplace a few years ago. Secondly, I have a crossbody that I use anytime I want hands-free, so typically when I'm with the kids. This one was actually a hand-me-down from Kelsey, who works with me. And my last one is what I call my party purse, and it's very small and it's perfect for like concerts or weddings or date nights. That one I keep in my dresser upstairs in my bedroom, and I use it maybe like a handful of times a year. Knowing how many purses to keep can be a little trickier than grocery bags because they aren't just for function. They are a reflection on our personalities and our styles. But I do have a little rule of thumb that I use to figure out how many to keep. With clients who are struggling with wanting to keep more than they have space for, I ask them one simple question. I ask them if they've used it in the past year. Having a variety can be awesome, especially if purses are something that you really love. But if you don't use something at least once a year, that's a sign that it's probably more likely clutter than something you actually value, even if you used to love it. Next up, we are moving to the kitchen. My take on cooking is that it's not a passion of mine. It's something that I love to do. However, because of necessity, I do it a lot. I spend a ton of time in our kitchen, and because of that, I want my kitchen to be like enjoyable to be in, easy to work around, which means I want to be able to easily access everything I own. One small item that we commonly come across in kitchens are measuring cups. Everyone seems to have a varying opinion on how many to keep, which is why I've included it in this list here. I have 1 set of measuring cups, which obviously it's not a complete set. I must have lost the half cup at some point and just picked up a little thrifted one along the way to replace it. And I also have 1 set of measuring spoons. I strategically chose to have 1 of each based on another rule of thumb that I use. I choose how much I own based on how much I can look after. how much time and energy I have to manage something. I know that if I had multiple sets of measuring cups, I'd have a hard time keeping track of them. I'd always be grabbing one and wondering where the other set is, and my drawer would be way more chaotic, which would make it harder for me to manage other items that are in there. I remind myself with items like this that are supposed to make our life easier and more functional. If they are now making our life harder because we can't keep track of them, then what's the point in owning them? I think we've become so accustomed to just assuming that owning like a backup or a spare of something can be handy. But in my experience, I haven't found that to be true. If you have so many that you can't keep track of them, that probably means that you have too many. Next up, we're jumping into clothes, which is something I get a ton of questions about. I personally have a really hard time finding jeans that fit perfectly. I'm super short and not like perfectly proportioned, which makes it super tricky, and I end up usually just owning ones that are like 80% okay. And at the moment I own 5 pair. I have 3 blue pair and 2 black pair. Honestly, I'm not totally in love with any of them, which is kind of sad. They're all totally fine, but I find that I've kind of started to change my style ever since I turned 40, and I haven't really quite nailed it yet. I'm still working on it, and I will keep you posted. I could probably even let a couple of these pairs go, but I usually like to declutter things that are when they are in season. So I'll probably wait till the fall to really assess and decide which ones I want to keep. I have one easy test that I use when I'm deciding what clothes or how many clothes to keep. I call it the reach test. Do I reach for this? If I'm getting ready for an appointment or dinner out with Scott, do I grab this pair of pants or this sweater or this dress? Or on the flip side, what do I not grab for? Because even if we can't pinpoint exactly why we don't love something, which can be harder than you would think sometimes, there is a reason we aren't grabbing for it. In which case, why bother keeping it? I think the statistics for clothes is something like we wear 20% of our wardrobe 80% of the time. And in my experience, I have found this to be so true. I made an entire video about this. I'm pretty sure it's called the reach test if you want to have a quick look for it. And if you're struggling with clothing and owning too much, I suggest starting with just like picking 4 or 5 items that you're really confident you can let go of. It doesn't always have to be this big ordeal. It doesn't always have to be this deep dive into your closet for a 5-hour declutter. Sometimes it's just a matter of grabbing that red sweater that you know you hate and finally just tossing it into the donate station. Next up is an item that a lot of families struggle to keep organized. When we are working with clients that have kids or even just a lot of adults, we often come across Lego, sometimes a lot of it. But that is something that our family doesn't struggle with, and that's because we don't own any Lego. Our kids are 7 and 8 at the moment, but they have just never shown any interest in it. And if they want something, they are not shy to tell me they want it. I think there are so many benefits to Lego, and in terms of toys, I actually think it's a great one, to the point where there have been times where I almost feel guilty for not owning it. Like, are my kids still gonna pass science if they haven't done Lego? Am I ruining their chances of them ever becoming engineers? But as much as I think it's great, I never push items on my family or myself just because I think we should own it. You don't have to own stuff just because everybody else does, or because we think it's considered normal. We often come across families who have a hard time letting go of things because they see them as something they should like, or they should own, or they should use. Maybe they bought a keyboard for their teenage daughter because they really want her to learn piano, but realistically, since you got it in 2019, she's maybe tried it 3 times. We have tackled bathrooms where there's 20 packs of floss, but no one in the house actually flosses. Or that elliptical that's in the basement that's really just used for tossing laundry on. Are you keeping something for your aspirational self or your real, true, current, today self? Which is probably a pretty great version of you. What I hate about these items is that A, they usually make us feel guilty for something that we're sort of falling short on. And B, they clutter up our spaces and distract us from the stuff that we do love and make it harder to enjoy our space. In my opinion, we should own 0 of these items. These things that we think that we should own. If there's something in your house that you never use, even if your best friend swears by it, I'm giving you permission to let it go. Well, once it's gone, you will probably forget it ever even existed. The last category for today is something that a lot of people might not own anymore, but surprisingly, we still keep in our house. When we're doing jobs that are really dirty or dusty, we'll often wear masks, basically so that I don't sneeze 800 times in one day. And I also use them periodically when we're visiting family at like retirement homes or nursing homes, especially during flu season. Category number 6 are masks. And we still have an entire basket of them in our linen closet. It's a mix of like cloth ones that were made, and I think there's half a box of disposable ones in there as well. These are obviously left over from you know what, but because we still grab for them occasionally, I do still keep them in the house. We tend to find a lot of masks in client homes, and everyone is very different about whether they keep them or not. Some people are like, oh my gosh, burn those, I never want to see them again. And some people are like, oh no, I will still want to have a stash, I still use them. This one is quite personal. And I think our decision on this one is based partially on our experience during, 2020 and the years that followed, which is such a great reminder of how powerful our own life experiences can be and how that translates into what we keep or what we don't keep. I would love to hear your take on masks. All right, what do you guys think? Is that a minimal amount of stuff? Is that an excessive amount of stuff? Is that average? I find it so fascinating to hear what people think is a lot. And if you like this type of video, you might like the part 1 that I made a few months ago, showing how much we own of a few other categories, and you can find it right here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next one. Bye guys.